Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are back on the path to the Albemarle. So, with that being said, we're on tier number 5. Let's get into the Devonshire. First of all, we need to look at our commander. We're running Bruce Fraser with Nikolai Kuznetsov and Philip Vian as our inspirations. We have Beyond Range, Igniter, Punch Through, and Fixated with Fully Packed as our legendary skill. Alright. We are running Aiming Systems Mod 1 and Steering Gears Mod 2. We are fully upgraded. We have 3 heals and 3 sonars. And we are running the Alpha Tester flag and the permanent Victorian camo that this ship had in one of the shop things, I think, recently. Can't remember exactly, but it's something like that. Survivability, 34,400 hit points with a 16% torpedo damage reduction. Artillery, you have 203mm 50 caliber BL Mark 8s. You have 8 of those that reach out to 16.4 kilometers with this build and reload in 14 seconds. 180-degree turn time, just 20 seconds. HE shell maximum damage is 3,300 with a 20% chance to set fires. And the AP shell maximum damage is 4,860. Secondary armament. You have 102mm 45 caliber QF Mark 19s. You have 8 of those, reaching out to 5.2 kilometers and reloading in 3 seconds, with an HE shell maximum damage of 1,500 and a 9% chance to set fires. Torpedoes. You have 533mm QR Mark 4s. You have 8 of those, a quad launcher on either side of the ship. And you reload in 96 seconds. They do a maximum of 15,433 damage. They are detectable out to 1.3 kilometers. And the torpedo range is 8 kilometers. Torpedo speed, 61 knots. AA defense. You have 20mm Oerlikon Mark 4s. You have 2 of those that do 7 damage per second, reaching out to 2 kilometers. Then you have the 20mm Oerlikon Mark 5s, that you have 20 of that do 61 damage per second, reaching out to 2 kilometers. Then you have the 40mm Vickers 2-pounder Mark 8s that you have 32 of, doing 79 damage per second, reaching out to 2.5 kilometers. And you have the 102mm 45 caliber QF Mark 19s, dual-purpose secondaries that you have 8 of, doing 72 damage per second, reaching out to 5 kilometers. Maneuverability, maximum speed is 32.1 knots. Turning circle is 710 meters, and rudder shift time is 6.3 seconds. None of these stats for maneuverability are particularly good, so keep that in mind. It's got average speed, it's got, I'd say, probably below average agility, considering that is literally the same turning circle as an Alabama or Massachusetts. And then, of course, the rudder shift is not bad, but not good, so it's pretty average too. Concealment, though. 10.6 by sea, 6.6 by air, 2 is always guaranteed, and a 6.1 kilometer detectability while firing in smoke. Armor. Now this is where you start to run into the issues with these higher tiered British heavy cruisers. They don't have any armor. The only armor that exists on these ships is right at the belt at the center line, protecting the citadel, and you have to angle it very well in order to avoid getting obliterated, and more often than not you just get obliterated. So keep that in mind. Now, we do have a 16mm bow, meaning anything with, be the freaking, come on, what's the thing? It's 227mm and above, I believe. Alright, I'll pull out the calculator. Y'all seem to like me doing these overmatch things with these, so I'll do it. So it's 16 times 14.3. Yeah, 228.8. I was close. So anything with guns that are larger than a 228.8 will go through and will obliterate you through the bow. Keep that in mind. Alright, let's get rid of the bow armor and take a look at the rest of the ship. You can see the citadel on this thing is not as large as you would expect, but it is very easy to citadel this thing. Mainly due to the lack of armor. So it just seems like wherever you pin anywhere near the center of the ship, you're getting citadels. And that's one of the downsides of these British heavy cruisers, is they are just begging to die at any given moment. They are very good right up until they aren't, which seems to be a theme for the British. And that goes in real life and in the game. I mean, it just seems like they're very, very good, and then suddenly they no longer exist. But, yeah, let's get into the overview. Sequential torpedoes, that's the British torpedoes you can fire tube by tube. Hidden, good concealment. That, I will say, these things do have very good concealment for heavy cruisers, especially. So there's that. And then superior HE damage. It has above average HE shell damage. And I would say above average HE fire chance, too. Considering these are only 203mm guns, and they have over a 20% chance to set fires. Devonshire, one of the London-class ships, British Washington treaty cruisers of the second series. The large-scale re-equipment of all cruisers of this class, which occurred in the late 30s to the early 40s, provided for changes in the ship's silhouettes and noticeable reinforcement of their armor protection. She entered service in 1929. There were 4 of them in the series. And I gotta say, I do like this camo a lot. It's pretty straightforward and simple, and while I don't really care for the silhouette of the ship, and I think it looks really, really old, I don't hate the ship. It's not a bad ship. So there is that, and it's a nice triple stacker. Who doesn't like triple stackers? But, with that being said, I think it's time to get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so this is going to be one of those matches that just kind of, you know, there are goods and bads on both sides of it. I'm part of both. Like, it's just, things go horribly wrong in every way imaginable and end up making for one of the matches that you just absolutely dream about on both sides. Like, you get the match that you want for your video, you get a match that's going to be entertaining for people to watch because there's just so much going on. It comes down to the wire. At one point, I'm not going to spoil it, but at one point you will not actually believe what happens. So I'm telling you, it's going to be one of those games, guys. For real. You guys know I love giving you guys matches, not only to showcase the ships, but are also entertaining and have some fun stuff happen. And this is going to be one of those matches. Now, again, I don't really particularly care for the British heavy cruisers. They're kind of a gimmick to me. They're there. They've got extremely good HE. Like, extremely good HE. But, other than that, they're kind of just cannon fodder. So, that's why I don't really care for them. Because I'm not a big HE spammy kind of guy, you guys know this. But I do see the point of these things, and I am going to try my hardest to put myself in position to take advantage of this ship and do the best that I can for my team. But I do that in every ship. And so, initially we spawn here, we see a Fuso coming towards us, our carrier's spotting, their carrier's dropping fighters. Then we see the Pensacola, and the Pensacola is actually a juicy target. Now, we try to use the auto-aim to zoom in and try to get a shot onto him early, and we actually end up overleading him. Not by much, but just a little bit. And we also notice that one of their DDs is here. So we've got a Pensacola, we've got a Fuso, we've got a destroyer here. We take a shot with the armor piercing, and I'm not going to lie, this guy started to turn broadside as I was feeling pretty good. But we end up hitting a little too far to the back. We do get one Citadel on him, but didn't quite manage to pull it off the way we'd hoped. But as you can see, these 2 Californias behind me are actually just ripping this Pensacola apart, as they should. I mean, it should be like the easiest kill of their lives. It's Pensacola, and there's 2 of them, so, or two battleships to shoot at it. So they should easily be able to delete this Pensacola. So we wait till we get out past the island, we take the shot, and he immediately goes down to the Gneisenau secondaries, of all things. Interesting. But we go ahead, we start focusing the Fuso. Now we know there's a destroyer here, so we've got to keep that in mind, but we're gonna try our best. The destroyer, or this Fuso, has no intention of shooting us, which is preferable. This is where these things can actually do so much damage, is when everybody just kind of leaves them to be. Fire starters in general are disgusting when left alone. And that's what this thing's going to do, and that dispersion will make you cry. We got a single hit on him out of that dispersion. Like, that was the worst dispersion you're ever going to see in a cruiser. Like, that was awful. But this next salvo is going to make up for it, and I believe we get a fire, which is going to be permanent. And there it is. You can see we hit him with 5 out of the 8 shells, and we set a fire. And so he's going to be burning. And we're going to take another shot at him. We're over the island now, so we don't have to worry there. We have the sonar going right now because we want to make sure that we don't get torpedoed. And we get a second fire. Again, that's a perma-fire. And this Fuso is not long for this world. But as you can see, I'm starting to reverse because my goal here is to go after the destroyer. I don't want to go around the island, leave this destroyer a free pass to get up next to my battleships. So I'm going to turn in and try to force the issue. You can see this destroyer sitting in a smoke screen. So we're going to try to, while our sonar is active, sneak up on this guy and knock him out. That's the goal. Now, I will say this. The lack of DPM on these heavy cruisers at lower tiers really does make it a little harder to get rid of destroyers quickly. But the British are pretty good at it because of their HE damage. You're going to see just how much damage we can stack up on a destroyer really quickly. Now, he's sailing away from us. We take the shot up the backside, and we hit him with a single shell for not a whole lot. But as he tries to avoid us, he's actually going to make himself a juicier target. And because he's shooting HE back at us, I don't even worry about him citadeling us, so we go ahead and give him the full salute. We hit him with 4 shells there, half of our 8-gun salvo. And you can see our secondaries are landing as well. And we're going to be able to hopefully get rid of this guy. Now our sonar goes down, so we immediately take and slow down. We turn in as hard as we can to A, give chase, and B, allow us to dodge his torpedoes that he likely shot at us. Now there's his torpedoes. You can see, pretty easy to dodge those. And this guy is screwed. I mean, there's nothing he can do at this point. He turned back towards me for some reason, and yeah, he's just not long for this world. As we leave him with just enough. Of course we do. And I thought we were going to get close quarters metal here, but of course the secondaries have to hit everywhere but the ship. So we go ahead and finish him off with the front guns. And down he goes. Now, that's one destroyer gone, but we happened to notice that there was a second destroyer over here. So rather than, like, falling back and getting behind my battleships to do, you know, what we do, I'm going to continue to push and try to get into this cap and intercept this destroyer, as well as try to flip the A cap. Because with everything that's over there at Charlie, I can't guarantee my team's ability to hang on to Charlie. So I'm going to try to flip the A cap and get over here and get a hold of this guy. Now, we get spotted, and it's an interesting point at where we get spotted because that kind of shows that he's basically right exactly where he was last spotted, which is interesting. So here I'm thinking, is he AFK? I'm not sure what's going on. We can almost certainly guarantee that he's going to be launching torpedoes at us, but we don't know exactly where he's at. I have a guess of where he's at, and I'm bow tanking directly towards it. But what this guy does next is probably the most genius play a destroyer player can make, and it almost works in his favor to the point of killing me. This man absolutely plays me here. He gets himself spotted. I turn in and actually turn right into his frickin' torpedoes. You couldn't have planned that strike better if you tried. If that was planned out, like, this guy is an absolute monster. You do not want to play against somebody like this. But I think it was more of he launched random torps, and then when he got spotted, I just happened to turn into him. Because everything that he does after this kind of, you know, made me feel a little better about myself. But he's trying to get away, and you can see my shells are just absolutely touching the man, and we managed to finish him off, getting 6 out of the 8 shells to hit him in that last salvo. Now, unfortunately, we have a whole bunch of people looking at us. We've got a California down here. We're going to open fire on these guys. This is the absolute wrong play to make here, and I'm just going to throw that out there. I should not be engaging these guys right now. I should flip this cap and then engage. Because I engage, I'm actually going to draw the attention of these battleships, and I'm in, like, the worst possible position to be getting the attention of battleships. And again, all I had to do is stop firing my guns and I would disappear here. But in my head, I needed to continue to fire and try to give our team the best opportunity possible as we can set some fires. Now, obviously, we've got a Scharnhorst shooting at us. He's got 283mm guns, which means he overmatches us. So does everybody else that's shooting at us. One of them is shooting HE, but this guy manages to get some good penetrations through the bow, and so does the Scharnhorst, and that completely changes how I play this at the end here. I'm like, okay, well, it's clear I can't sit here. We had the cap so close to cap. I think we were on the last second. literally the last possible second. And unfortunately managed to take a hit to reset the cap, which is downright devastating. But is what it is. You can't win them all, right? And then we start getting harassed by the carrier. And this is the downside of this particular ship too. It has okay AA for the tier, but the problem is that the AA, most of the AA doesn't kick in until close range. So it's basically like not having any AA at all until they are right on top of you, which means more often than not they've already dropped their ordnance, which is not preferable, especially when they get the dispersion that this man's about to get on these torpedoes. And you can see I am firing HE at the guy, but I know that I can Citadel this man with HE. And I'm not sure that I can Citadel him with the AP because I figured I would end up, yeah, you can see, should have thrown that into reverse, should have turned in a little harder there to avoid those torpedoes. We just made a whole bunch of mistakes here at the end of this fight. But there's the Citadel that I was looking for with the HE, where we know we can do it. And the HE is more reliable in this thing than the AP is, or at least in my opinion. So that's why I stick with it, but unfortunately this guy is able to flip to the other side. He gets torpedo strike off and down I go. And that's where this match starts to get real interesting. So the enemy has one cap. They just denied me capping it, so I couldn't flip the cap, which would have guaranteed the win. Their team is currently capturing Charlie, which is going to give them a cap advantage. Now we have the points lead right now, which is good, because we were denying them points, and we were stacking up 2 bases worth of points. So that gave us a points lead. And that points lead may very well come down to be the decider at the end of this fight, because it's going to be close, guys. We've got 2 Californias here, one of which got touched by the destroyers early on and lost all of his hit points. And then we've got the other who has been will to rebuilding that guy and also not being shot at for some reason. Even though he's sailing around broadside to the other California, the California behind him thinks he can kill the guy that's willed to rebuilding, and he fails. Meanwhile, the Vesa makes sure that he makes short work of that Cali. Now that leaves a Sinop and a Ryujo? No? What is it? It's the Japanese carrier for the tier. I can't think of it. But anyway, it leaves 2 versus 3. We've got a carrier which is going to absolutely run rampant. It's got the armor-piercing bombs. It's got great torpedoes. Like the German carriers are the best carriers in the game, and it's not even close. It's not even close. There's no argument to be made for anybody else. And they managed to actually take out the Zuiho. That's who it is. Zuiho manages to take out our will to rebuilding captain because he got outside of will to rebuild and wasn't able to stack up any more healing. But this Cali is going to play with fire here, man. And honestly, I wish he had played with fire. He's got a bow tanking tier 6 battleship, okay? You're not going to go through the bow of a Sinop with a California, okay? It's got a 25mm bow, which means you need at least 15-inch guns to go through it, okay? The 14-inch guns of the Cali just can't quite do it. Now, you can get some damage, and he is actually going to get some damage, but if he had switched to HE, he could have burned this guy down. He'd have been doing a lot more damage per salvo, and he would have absolutely murdered this Sinop so much quicker. And if you're the Sinop in this scenario, I understand that things aren't working out for you, but you have got to land your shots on a broadside battleship that's lower tier. Like, you've got to hit your marks, and the marksmanship of this guy has left some things to be desired. You have to land your shots. You've got all the advantage in the world. And you can see, not able to do much with the Cali's guns at a bow tanking Sinop. And the Sinop goes down to the Vesa. Now, the carrier, to his credit, was not relying on that California to try to win this battle for him. He kept pounding the Sinop as best he can, and he has actually put himself in position to capture and flip a base. I know, this doesn't happen very often, but this kind of throws a nice little wrench into everybody's claims that carrier players are all bad, because honestly, good carrier players are absolutely ridiculous at what they can do in these things. I mean, we all know how frustrating it is to be on the receiving end of the carriers, especially a good carrier player. And these guys are going to have themselves a heck of a fight between two carriers inside, like, close quarters. Like, these guys are going to be having their planes shot down the moment that they launch them, but they're still going to be able to keep their planes in the air and launch attacks effectively against one another. They're going to get into range to be able to use their secondaries. And our Cali is hitting the Zuiho, but he's not doing the damage that you would love to see from the Cali on the Zuiho. And I honestly was like, okay, well, this Zuiho is going to get into secondary range of our Vesa, and our Vesa is just going to wreck him, because the secondaries on the Vesa is pretty good. But while that is the case, the overall deciding factor here is what is about to happen. He takes torpedoes, and it causes a perma-flood, which is absolutely ridiculous. To get that flood in this sort of a scenario, I was like, oh my god, he's actually going to do it. Because this carrier's going to die, right? There's nothing about it. Like, this carrier's going to die before he gets his damage control back. And so they're swinging at each other. Neither of these guys got much hit points. Both of them are going after one another. The secondaries are firing at each other. Like, this is what you absolutely dream of. But unfortunately, the Vesa, because of that flood, he gets a fire on the Vesa as well, and it's just too much, and down goes the Vesa. However, we still have the California out here, and the California has done the right thing and secured the win for the team. There's no way that the Zuiho can kill our California in time. And our Vesa has continued to fight the Zuiho after death. He had planes in the air, he's dropping on the target, and he has almost killed him. Now, here we swing around, and we just get to look just in time to watch the Cali shells hit this man and end the match. But that was a close game, man. It came right down to the wire. You didn't know exactly who was going to win until it was over, man. It was pretty ridiculous. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this first meet for the Devonshire. So if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.